It's Rob!
Tony!
We're in gaming!
And that's you!
Hello inmates and welcome back to the Inn. I'm Rob, of course, our Warshak if you want to call me by my in-game name. And exciting news, we have more Karazhan cards to reveal. I checked this morning and it is Monday morning and we had two more cards to look over. I want to each video at least cover 5 cards. So over the weekend I know there was a few released, but I didn't want to cover them because it was only like 2 or 3 of them, and that's not enough information for you guys, and it's also not a really big reveal. So I wanted to wait till there's at least 5, and there is. So this is where this video is coming from. The first card we're going to look at is the Babbling Book. It's a 1-drop, 1/1 mage card, and it says Battlecry, add a random mage spell to your hand. Also, let me point out that this is kind of just a first look at these cards. I haven't went into any like deep analytics or like how they'll perform in particular decks. More of so just looking at the card, going over some general sense, like a general sense of the card, seeing what decks it'll probably fit into, and my opinion if it's good or bad, and will it be played in ranked and or arena. So first off, this particular card doesn't say discover, so it's not, you don't get to select the card that it's choosing for you. It's random, which kind of makes this card a little bit it's not as good as what I originally thought, because when you think of cards that give you cards, you think, okay, discover, it gives me 3 options. In this case, it just doesn't. Also, it's only a 1/1 for 1. Not that the stats are bad. You basically would only play this to get that random mage spell to your hand, but more times than not, you're not going to get that exact spell you're looking for. The chances of that are extremely slim. So I see this card being more of an arena card due to the fact that it can create value, and it's still a card to play on the board on turn 1, while in ranked, having the ability to choose what's in your deck and then building the deck around that, I think is really the essential part of ranked, and this card doesn't really fit into that, along with it not being any particular, it's not like a dragon, it's not like they didn't add a new class like Arcanist or something like that. So I think that's basically going to be a decent arena card, but I don't see it being played in ranked a whole lot. Moving to the next one, this guy's actually really interesting and I like it a lot. First of all, he's a 1-drop, 1/3, so the stats are definitely there. As we know, most of the 1-drops for all classes, whether it's the Void Walker, the Northshire Cleric, Mana Worm, there's always that 1/3 Tunnel Trog. So it's interesting to see the Warlock class get another 1-drop, 1/3. And he says, whenever you discard a card, draw a card, and he's also a demon, so I can see some demon synergy here, of course. And then when I think of discarding a card, you think of cards like the Succubus that makes you, when you Battlecry, discard a card. You think of what is his name? He's like he's riding a Fellhound. No, not a Fellhound. What is that? He's a Tiny Knight. Is it Tiny Knight? I don't know. It says whenever you discard a card, this guy gets +1 attack, and I know that's a 2-drop 3/2. I know it's going to come to me as soon as I finish this video. It's still early in the morning, guys, but yeah, I see synergies along with that. Doom Guard. There's a couple other spells that say discard a couple cards, kill a couple more minions. So there's a lot of cards in the Warlock deck, as we know, that they don't cost a lot, but in order for them to be played, you have to discard cards, which is kind of like the payment of them being such a powerful card, like Doomguard, the 5-drop, 5/7 with charge, but you have to discard 2 cards, which will actually, if this guy's on the field, you actually get to draw 2 cards, which is really cool. And the fact that he's a demon means that we're going to see some more demon synergy, which is what the Warlock's currently missing, in my opinion, right now. I mean, when you look at the Warlock decks, you think of Reno Warlock, right? You think of Zoo Warlock, and then that's the extent. Maybe you'll wiggle in some like Cthulhu Reno Warlock in there, but there's no Demon Warlock. There's no Tempo Demon Warlock. There's no Control Demon Warlock. There's none of that, and that's what the Warlock class should be bringing to the table, is some form of demon deck. Hence, Warlocks, Demons, it kind of would follow the whole path there. So I think heading in the direction of, with cards like this is a great thing for the Warlock class in general, and I'm really excited to see where that ends up, because I don't want to keep playing against, not that I don't mind going against Zoo on ladder. You guys know I hate it, but it's a strong deck. But I think in the Warlock class there needs to be variety. Like the Warrior class right now has an insane amount of cards, and or not cards, but it's an insane amount of deck archetypes, which allows there to be a lot of variation in warrior decks, and it's kind of sad to see Warlock does not have that huge variation. Okay, so our next card, sorry about that little tangent there, but I think it needs to be said that they went behind the Imp being a demon, how they're pushing for more demons in the decks, or more demon-like synergies within the Warlock decks. Okay, so a 6-drop, 3/6, so the stats aren't there. Bookworm, I think it's a pretty cool name with a pretty cool picture, it's funny. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, destroy an enemy minion with 3 attack, or 3 attack or less, and he's a dragon. So obviously we've got dragon synergy here. I mean, that's kind of, yeah. There's not a whole lot to this guy besides if you're holding a dragon and then you get to kill a 3 or less. I think he's going to be a really solid card. Probably not an arena. But definitely I see this fitting in well into Dragon Priest, more so than any other deck. Dragon Mage, Dragon Warrior, all of those are fairly strong dragon decks. He's a neutral, so he can go, and like I said, at any kind of dragon deck. He's going to be coming from an adventure mode, so everybody's going to have access to him. It's not like the, what was it called? It's not Midnight Drake, it's Twilight Guardian, and as we know, that's an epic dragon, and that's kind of expensive for you players that, don't have, the huge wallet to be able to spend on Hearthstone, which is totally understandable. So this being a card that anybody can get from the adventure mode is pretty cool, and I believe they said that they're giving away the first wing of the adventure mode, something like that. Don't hold me to it, but I saw a couple of Reddit posts mentioning that and saying thank you, so I'm assuming that they're doing something with the first wing. But besides that, there's not a whole lot to say about this guy. Overall, I think he's a fairly strong dragon, definitely going to be seen. It's not a card that's not going to be seen at all. He'll make his way somewhere into some particular dragon decks for sure, and he reminds me of the Kodo Rider, the 5-drop beast card that says it's a 3/5. So it has the same attack, 1 more health, costs 1 more mana, and the Kodo Rider says destroy a random 2-drop. And this guy is you actually get to pick. It says destroy an enemy minion. It doesn't say random minion. So you actually get to make the selection there, and it actually has 3 attack, which is a much more, it's a broader pool of cards that you can destroy, as the Kodo Rider is only 2 or less, and it's random. So I think this guy, like I said, pretty strong. Moros, 3-drop, 1/1. He has stealth, which is really, really cool. There's not a whole lot of cool stealth minions out there, especially ones that have an ability that continuously generates value. And he says at the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 steward. So first thing that comes to mind is him having stealth and summoning 1/1s. I think of the what is it called? It's the new Paladin card. It's Dark Shire Councilman, I believe her name is, Dark Steward, I don't know. She's a Paladin card. She's a 3-drop, 3/3, and it says whenever you summon a card with 1 HP, give it Divine Shield. So if you have her on the field in combination with this guy, you're actually summoning stealth minions. Or no, the stewards, I don't know if the stewards have stealth. I doubt they do. But you're summoning 1/1s, and those 1/1s will actually get Divine Shield. This is a combination of cards that, yes, it would cost 6 mana and you're only getting 1/1 with Divine Shield. But if your whole deck is built around giving 1/1s Divine Shield, this guy on top of that is just like an extra card you have out there. Plus he has stealth, so the opponent's going to have to use some form of AoE to actually kill this guy. And you can actually give him maybe Blessings of the King, so he's a 5/5 with stealth. And not only can he become a finisher or a card that can make pretty decent trades, you can choose when to unveil him because he does have that stealth. So I think this is a cool card. I'm not sure how much he's going to be seen or how much he's going to be played, but I'm sure he's going to be put into a couple decks and played around with at first to see exactly where he fits. Paladin seems to be where I think it's going to go. Another deck that he could go into making a whole bunch of 1/1s would be Zoo, but unfortunately this card is a little slow for a Zoo. You're essentially paying 3 mana for a card that's only summoning a 1/1. Granted, he does it at the end of the turn every turn, but if you're playing against a Zoo, your opponent knows, hey, I need to save my field removal like a Holy Nova or some, brawl until your opponent's field or the Zoo field is filled with creatures. So it's going to be questionable if this guy can fit into a deck like Zoo, but I do see it fitting into a more maybe mid-range Paladin deck. This next one's pretty interesting and I really like it. It is a 3-drop, Protect the King, and it says for each enemy minion, summon a 1/1 pawn with Taunt. So Taunt Warrior decks, a bolster. Here we go, boys. Oh, sorry, I hit the mic. So Bolster, if you're not familiar with that card, it's a 2-drop, and it says for every taunt you have, or for all taunt creatures you have on the field, give them +2/+2, but they have to be taunt. And most of the time, if you fill your deck with taunt creatures, you're giving up stats for the ability to have taunt. But in this case, you actually get the ability to summon a bunch of taunt minions, or at least maybe 2 or 3, and then you can go ahead and combo that with 2 more mana. So essentially for 5 mana, you can generate maybe 2 or 3 3/3 creatures with taunt, which is pretty good in my opinion, especially if you're playing against maybe a more of aggressive type deck. So Protect the King, I really like where this is going. I like the picture a lot. It has like the chess battle as we saw in Karazhan, so they're doing a great job with the art in my opinion with all of these cards thus far. They all have their own kind of appeal to them. Very interesting. And I think it's a great way the warrior should go. I think warriors should revolve around being a lot more defensive. I know we already have control warrior, but I would have to say there's a lot more aggressive based warrior decks at the moment. Or at least it's like, it seems to be there's a lot more aggressive because of how popular Dragon Tempo Warrior is. And I think warriors need to be a much slower deck because they're tanks in WoW. You know, warriors aren't, I guess, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I like this type of card. The more defensive, the more combo-oriented, and makes you think a little. It's not just all face all the time. All right, so our last card is the Prince. He's a 5-drop, 5/6 demon. He's a demon, folks, and I like that a lot. We've mentioned before why I like it being a demon. He's a neutral demon, so he doesn't even have to fit into a particular class, even though he's probably, because he's a demon, fit into the Warlock class. But his effect is what makes him really cool, and I'm not sure exactly how this is all going to work out, but let's read it real quick. He says, at the start of your turn, shuffle 5 random legendary minions into your deck. It's not a battle cry, it's not a death rattle, it just states at the start of your turn. So this could be, I'm assuming, every single turn. It doesn't say at the start of the first turn, it just says at the start of your turn. So if this card lives, every turn he's putting 5 legendary minions in your deck. Very similar to the effect that Elise has on the game. She, the map to the golden monkey, turn your whole deck into legendaries, and then the variety of those, the variance of those legendaries is huge, right? You could get all Nat Pagels, you could get Lore Walker Cho, you could get Nat the Dark Fisherman, sometimes you get, Nixia, you get Sonaris, you get Rag, so there's a lot of variance in there and how good those legendaries are, and this just says random legendaries, so you're looking at the same variance as when you play Elise. The cool part is it adds cards to your deck, and as we know, the Warlock class has the ability to sacrifice 2 mana and draw a card, which accelerates the amount of cards that they draw, therefore limiting the amount of cards in their deck or reducing that compared to your opponent who doesn't have that type of ability. So actually adding cards to your deck is not something they have a whole lot of in Hearthstone currently. So with cards like this, allows the decks that have really fast acceleration in their card draw to be able to sustain that, or at least not deck themselves out because of this card right here. And the fact that you can have this guy sit on the field 1 or 2 turns, I mean, that's 10 card value, and that's 1/3 of the deck rebuilt, technically. So if you can give this guy some sort of stealth, maybe, I really don't see that being a huge combo, but I see this guy at least living on the field 1 turn, or your opponent's going to have to waste at least one of their huge CC cards on just a 5-mana, 5/6 card. So I like this card a lot. I think it's going to be played a decent amount. I definitely see some Demon Warlock decks coming out of maybe some later game controlled Demon Warlock decks with cards like this in here that allow that extended match because of the fact that you're adding cards to your deck. You're being able to draw more when you discard cards. So it's going to be a mix between some mid-range and control Demon decks like I mentioned. Cool. I'm really looking forward to the card so far. Everything I've revealed so far seems to be a pretty cool card or interesting card or a card that can somehow fit into a deck. We haven't got into any of the cards that are like, wow, this card really sucks. It's probably not going to go into anything, which happens more times than not than what we can say in the previous adventure modes or expansions, which kind of sucks because you're like looking forward to these new cards and they end up being dry cards, and it's just, it stinks. But all these cards so far look really cool. Really looking forward to this adventure mode. Sorry I'm having trouble talking, guys. It's extremely early in the morning, and yeah. So as always, hopefully you've enjoyed this. If there's anything I'm missing or any points you want to further add to the cards that we've gone over today, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. I try to read over as much as I can, but I can't, comment back to everybody, but at least I read it over, and if I have the time to respond, I'll do the best I can to get back to you and let you know what I think about the opinion you've made. On top of that, as always, guys, I'm Warshak, of course, and happy whatever the hell day it is.